At the end of The Ones Who Live, when Rick and Michonne defeated the dark side of the CRM, the interesting side, the Walking Dead universe was left in this weird place where it lacked direction. Whatever the Rick Return project was going to turn out to be, I thought there was going to be a fulfilling answer to the CRM stuff, and more importantly, make Rick's absence worth it. He missed out on the Whisperers, he missed out on the Commonwealth arc. Rick was always meant to do that. Again, it doesn't have to copy the comics, but with what they did adapt, Rick should have been there. The Ones Who Live was meant to make it all worth it, but they wrapped it up in a really weird way, where it left the Walking Dead universe in limbo, where there's clearly other spin-off shows going on needing a purpose, because it didn't just end the cool and the dark CRM stuff, at least with what they've given right now, but the new and improved CRM are friendly now. They're delivering supplies, they're flying them around to where they want to go. I just think that's a bit of a dangerous place to leave it, to kind of take the danger and the stakes away. And while Andrew Lincoln has, I think, very obviously teased that he's going to come back, he's still got to reunite with Daryl. That's a big thing. It's still been left in limbo. It really was such an annoying ending. Fortunately, there are some quite big unanswered things that are yet to be followed up on, and if the rumours are true, more new spin-offs and new seasons of current spin-offs. I remember at the end of World Beyond, they had half of the group go to Portland and half stay and experiment and continue to look for a cure, whether you think that's pointless and stupid or not. That's what the CRM, good and bad, were doing, and they actually made progress.
Centimeters of tissue. This rate of yeast-based decay is extraordinary.
Now that General Bill's CRM has been defeated, this group in hiding in this lab underground, they could bring this back to the CR. And Daryl and Carol's story, I still think, will eventually be involved with the actual New Walkers. They killed off all of the silly serum side to that show, so it's good that that wasn't what they had changed it to. So I still hope that they play it off like Janet and her group were just trying to duplicate the actual new, stronger Walker that we saw in that end credits scene. When you look at what was at the end of the main show, what they slowly teased, it was the natural variants. I see the next phase of The Walking Dead as the variant phase, and this is how I see it going eventually. I think Daryl and Carol come back home and they warn Rick, Michonne and the Commonwealth about this threat. And it sounds pretty stupid. I mean, the Walking Dead characters have reacted to the idea of evolution or the Walkers being different as you would.
The Walkers are evolving. They're dead. They're not evolving.
Being dead hasn't exactly stopped them from perambulating that infant, I don't know, has it? They're not dead in any sense that makes sense. It takes an impact to the cranium to stop them, which means the brain is alive. Rated as it may be, and if it's alive, it can change. Maybe it can start to remember things too. Like have a talk.
What?
Of course, the season 1 characters would have actually seen different Walkers, as Aaron spoke about, so some would believe it, some wouldn't. But Rick and Michonne trust them. The way that Daryl and Carol are explaining it is it's going to be a big problem, like a second apocalypse. So Rick and Michonne and all of them will have to make a case to the CRM to get them to fight with them on the shores, and they're laughed at. So Maggie comes back, or she's been back, and she says she knows where they can get people, Negan and his city. Rick is hesitant, but all of the main characters in the universe go there. Now my ideal scene for this to happen is Negan has another lineup, all the characters, Rick, Michonne, Daryl, Morgan, Maggie, but when he chooses someone to beat down, he actually turns round and hits Croat and the Dharma, who are standing behind him enjoying it. Once they all realise he was joking, Negan puts his arm up smiling and says, Rick! They all stand up in relief, and Rick thanks Negan for what he's done, and he awkwardly asks for help, and he gets it. They all join up with Negan's city and the Commonwealth to fight the New Walkers.
Guess you were right. You could do this all by yourself.
This is
What we have to do.
And before you know it, all the Walking Dead characters that are alive you can think of all unite and must fight off the new dead. They just released the first scene of The Walking Dead, Dead City Season 2, and they show that Negan is using walkers as biofuel and lighting up at least his borough in New York City, and now that he's been made the leader, his plan with the Dharma and the Croat is to slowly take over the whole of New York City, so will soon be the leader of the whole island. In the main show they found and now lead the Commonwealth, which is a big walled city with over 50,000 people in it, along with the other towns and communities it's affiliated with. So there's the Commonwealth, the Civic Republic that still exists with its 2 cities, and now Negan is building his own, I think, quite significant part of the Walking Dead universe, if he's not just on the way to making a whole city alive again and be the leader of it, but bringing back power in it. Having electricity slowly for the whole city is a big thing. He's having a rebirth of his main show storyline, apart from now it's a wise Negan with a community likely 200 times bigger than the Sanctuary. So Negan is soon going to be the leader of of his own big community, his own big city that the CR would have worked with. So Philadelphia, Portland, and Negan's New York City could really be a thing. I really hope that Gabriel and Aaron show rumour is true about them going to Canada. That World Beyond end credit scene showed French writing, they were talking French, so that could be some place in Canada where there's a lot of French Canadians. Of course, this said the dead were born here, so Aaron and Gabriel could both go there for an important part of the story, and much like all the other shows, come together and help with something they find. I can also see Eugene trying to duplicate what Janet did after Daryl and Carol tell him about it, as a way to use that against the actual new walkers. Think of all the funny and cool scenes of them testing walkers. Although the silly serum stuff was silly, it would be so cool if the whole reason that was introduced was so that Eugene could mimic it later. So although years ago he lied about going to Washington because he's a scientist that could potentially make a cure,
I lied. I don't know how to stop it.
it would be a full circle moment if in the end he really does create something that at least stops the new walkers. With The Walking Dead, I think a lot of stuff happens for a reason. It's only really been a short amount of time since the main show ended, so slowly but surely all these things will come into play in the overall chess game that the story, I at least hope, is trying to play. And I said this in a video I did in 2023, that in order for the natural new walkers to work, they've got to be scary. Andrew Lincoln has said that that is the point he would come back to The Walking Dead.
If there were another opportunity to tell this story, I quite like the idea of paring it really back down to basics again. I want to bring it back to that, to sort of pare it right down, to bring it back to the very simplistic survival horror it essentially always was, and make these characters, maybe hamstring them a little bit, make sure that they, you know, like tie one hand behind their back, because they're all such accomplished, kind of extraordinary, competent, heroic characters. And I think to make them compromised again, and the audience, them on the back foot and the audience on the back foot, would be really exciting.
I guess the thing that does scare me a bit in regards to Rick is the small possibility that they really are just done with him. I mean, that's such a stupid thing to think and say. With The Walking Dead, it really could be that dumb. They aren't afraid to let you down. It felt like they started to not mention Rick at the end of the main show where they should have, and Daryl, even in the first season of his show, didn't mention him when you think he would. But I do think it really is as simple as it just has to happen. Why is Daryl even going on right now in that show if that's not the reward? So give or take, in a vague way of saying it, that's what I think will happen. And then at the end of it, I remember saying years ago that the CRM storyline could be like a really inflated version of the comic Commonwealth storyline if they really wanted to, and with how the show did it, with how they were kind of forced to do it, it was this massively watered down one with these side characters. So with how the CR treated all of the characters when they said they needed help and they were right about the new walkers, Rick is voted as the new leader and will eventually be the new leader of the CRM. That is what I want. That's what I see the next phase of The Walking Dead as. But what do you think? Do you still want them to do the actual new walker thing? And how would you feel about them doing the Commonwealth storyline from the comics, but with Rick and the CRM? So just a much bigger one than what the comics and even the main show did. Also, make sure you go and watch this video I just did about Shane. I think you're wrong about Shane, and this will completely change how you see him. I'm not making it up either, it's from the words of John Bernthal himself. Go and watch it. Of course, press the like button on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.